Mr. Smith was observing with pleasure as the young girl, after finishing cleaning and washing, began to trim the bad leaves of the office plants.
Your name is Lisa, isn't it?
She flinched and turned around.
I'm sorry, I didn't notice you coming. I'll leave now.
She started hurriedly gathering the leaves and scissors.
You didn't answer my question.
Yes, it's Lisa. I'm sorry, I didn't expect you to arrive so early.
Lisa replied nervously. It was 7 o'clock, and the company didn't start working until 9.
Well, you seemed so engrossed that I didn't dare to disturb you. I really dislike seeing such disorder with the plants.
The girl smiled.
Can I finish then?
Of course, there's still no one else here.
Mr. Smith, the owner of the corporation, had come early not without reason. He hadn't been able to sleep today. He only managed to sleep until 2 in the morning when the police called asking him to pick up his wayward son. Frankly, he didn't want to go. He wanted to tell them to let his son deal with the consequences of his actions. But how much longer could he keep bailing him out from everywhere? His son was 20 years old, and he still showed no sign of maturity. But his wife woke up, and he had to go pick up their son. Naturally, he yelled at him again, hoping he would finally understand how to behave. He dropped off his son's friends at their homes before finally getting to his own. Watching his wife tend to their son, giving him tea and applying a compress to his bruise, he really wanted to shake his son thoroughly. Since his son returned from studying in London, which was 4 years ago, John hadn't worked a single day. Instead, he enjoyed going out and partying. Mr. Smith had blocked his son's bank cards several times, but his wife always handed the boy hers. The boy would roam around, flaunting his father's name, and everyone let him get away with it. All the advice to get his act together fell on deaf ears. But this time, John outdid himself. Along with the sons of his father's business partners, they stole a police car and drove around the city while intoxicated. And it's not yet clear what Mr. John will have to face with the police chief. Of course, they knew each other quite well, but the chief had already said that his patience was running out. And Mr. Smith understood him perfectly.
Lisa, can you tell me why such a young girl like you is working as a cleaner?
The girl was a bit confused for a moment, but then replied.
I'm actually studying through correspondence. I can only work in the morning and evening because I have to take care of my mom during the day. A neighbor watches over her in the morning and evening, but she has her own business during the day. So, I work for you in the morning, and in the evening, I clean the entrances.
Mr. Smith was taken aback by such a list of responsibilities.
Lisa, why do you have to work so much? You need to prepare for your exams, right?
I'll manage. My mother is very ill, and her medications are expensive. I also have a brother, and he leads a not-so-good life, and sometimes there are situations when. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, I'm done. I'll go now.
Mr. Smith watched her leave, and then thought,
I need to find out more about her. Are there still people like her nowadays?
By the evening, he knew everything about Lisa. And he felt like tipping his hat to that girl. He called the accountant and asked to increase the cleaner's salary, saying that taking care of the plants is not part of her duties. No one had ever questioned him in his company, so after receiving a clear
"Will do"
in response, he hung up. Arriving home in the evening, he noticed his son's friends near their gate, and one of their cars was visible from the corner. So, they were out partying again. How long could this go on? A wave of indignation washed over Mr. Smith's soul, and just at that moment, he saw his son coming down the stairs toward him.
Well, son, did you have a good rest? Did you enjoy yourself?
John looked cautiously at his father, wondering what was going on.
Such a gentle tone after what I've done. It must mean trouble. Well, yes, what about it?
John answered cautiously.
Well, nothing. Please go back inside. We need to talk.
And Mr. Smith went into the house without looking back. John had no choice but to follow him. He just felt that something was about to happen. But he didn't dare disobey his father. He knew his father's patience had its limits, and if it was at an end, John was in for trouble. And that's precisely how John ended up in a closed educational institution in England. Not only did he have to spend 4 years practically imprisoned, but he also had to study there.
And what did he actually do yesterday? We had a bit of fun, and no one got hurt. They didn't even damage the car.
John thought. The mother looked at her husband and John with concern.
Son, did you forget something?
But John didn't have a chance to answer. His father did it for him.
Of course, he forgot. He forgot that he's a human, not an animal. Can someone explain to me why I should be embarrassed about what my son does? Why is everyone proud of their children? And I should be ashamed?
Bob, but...
Silence!
Mr. Smith raised his voice at his wife only twice in his life, and both times it was because of John. The wife froze, and he took out a stack of newspapers and magazines from his briefcase.
Look, take a good look at your dear son.
The photographs were of good quality, and it was very clear how John was showing his bare rear while driving a police car past the police station, the very same police car they had stolen. John only now remembered this incident.
Damn, it seems there's no escaping it today.
His father turned to him and said,
Whether you like it or not, I will turn you into a decent human being. And if it doesn't work, I'll just throw you out the gate and see how you survive.
And at that moment, John decided to show that he was an adult and independent man.
I can decide for myself what to do and how to do it.
He said and realized that was the end. He shouldn't have said that. His father turned red. He grabbed his phone.
Security chief, come to my office quickly.
The mother approached him and hugged him. She knew her husband well, and now John would have to answer for his actions. She had asked him, begged him to be careful. The security chief arrived in 15 minutes. This time, Mr. Smith sat in his chair and looked sternly at his son.
Mr. Smith, you called me?
Yes, Kevin, come in.
A young, fit man approached his boss.
See this brainless fool?
Not a single muscle twitched on the man's face.
Yes, of course.
Do whatever you want, put him on a leash, hire guards, but he must not leave the premises until I say so. Is that clear?
Yes, we'll do it.
You can go.
Kevin left. The boy stared at his father.
Have you gone mad? This is some last century stuff. Kids aren't punished like that anymore.
This isn't punishment. This is the time for me to come up with a punishment for you. And believe me, I'll think of something.
He quickly walked into his room. The son realized that he couldn't do anything in his current situation and left in silence. The next morning, Mr. Smith woke up early, checked the clock. It was 5 a.m. He didn't feel like sleeping anymore, nor did he want to stay at home. He quietly got ready and went to work. He loved working. He had built his company from scratch and was now one of the wealthiest men in the city. He wasn't surprised to see Lisa. She was wiping the entrance glass doors. Lisa looked surprised again.
Mr. Smith, you're up so early.
Yes, couldn't sleep tonight. Lisa, can you find some coffee and maybe a snack in this building? I forgot to have breakfast. The secretary won't be here anytime soon.
Lisa smiled.
Of course, I'll bring everything right away.
And make yourself some coffee too. Everything's already sparkling here.
They sat in his office, and Mr. Smith looked at the girl and thought,
She's very nice, just tired.
Is something wrong with you?
Oh, Lisa, don't ask. I have problems with my son. I raised him, was proud of him, thought he would be my successor, but he went down the wrong path.
And for some reason, Mr. Smith told her everything. She listened attentively, didn't interrupt, and then said,
Yes, it's tough when a person has everything.
Lisa, tell me, what's wrong with your mother?
My mother was hit by a drunk driver on the road. She underwent several surgeries, but in order for her to live somewhat peacefully without pain, she needs constant medication or surgery. I managed to earn enough for her medications, but not for the surgery.
How this idea came to Mr. Smith's mind, he didn't understand himself, but suddenly he asked,
Lisa, how old are you? You know what I want to offer you? To earn a lot of money, a lot, and you can get your mother the surgery. And your life will be completely different.
What do I have to do? Something like killing someone?
Lisa joked.
Almost. Marry my good-for-nothing son.
Lisa choked on her coffee and started coughing.
What? Excuse me.
Lisa, I've thought it all through.
After the marriage ceremony was over, John still thought it was some bad joke. His father married him to some poor, ordinary girl, like it was some kind of movie, and John was ready for paparazzi to jump out from around the corner, yelling that it was just a prank. But they got in the car, drove to the restaurant, and there were no paparazzi. Moreover, the tables were set in the restaurant, waiting for guests. John recognized his father's colleagues and partners, the parents of his friends. He turned to Mr. Smith and said,
Dad, is this not a joke?
The thing is, a criminal case has been opened against you. And I was able to negotiate with the police chief only because I convinced him that you've changed, that you're marrying an ordinary girl, and you're moving to the suburban settlement to support your family and yourself. He promised to keep an eye on you and to forget about it then.
Dad, you won't do this.
Do you doubt that?
The wedding was in full swing when a familiar businessman approached Mr. Smith.
Well, Bob, you made us laugh. What do you think? You can change John. I'll surprise you, but we ourselves are to blame, and no one will change them now.
He laughed and walked away. Mr. Smith gritted his teeth.
Well, we'll see about that.
Lisa knew that anything could happen, but she didn't care. As soon as they called from the hospital and said the surgery was paid for, she went to choose a wedding dress. She took the first one she saw. When the car dropped them off at her home, John gasped.
Are we going to live here?
Yep, we are. Let's go to sleep. I have to get up early for work tomorrow.
After a day, John realized that he would not only not get a wedding night, but also no food in this house. Lisa left early in the morning. And when she returned, she sat down to study. A week later, he had to find a job, and when he found one, It was the first time they fed him dinner in this house. 6 months passed. To be honest, Mr. Smith got tired of the mockery from his colleagues. He even felt sorry for his son. All his friends were having fun while he sent his own son into exile. Lisa had to quit her job so that John wouldn't suspect anything.
It's decided. I'll go and pick up my son tomorrow. However, Kevin, the head of security, reported yesterday that John is working and there seems to be something going on between John and Lisa.
Thought Mr. Smith. Yet he knew that couldn't be the case. People don't just change. Mr. Smith drove to the address where Lisa lived. He got out of the car in front of her house. Yes, and how his son only lives here. He went up the stairs, knocked, and smelled the delicious aromas coming from the door.
Yes, it's opened.
He pushed the door and entered, and immediately stopped. Lisa was setting the table, and his son, yes, his son, who never did anything, was washing the dishes. And both of them were smiling.
Oh, Dad! What a surprise!
It seemed that John was genuinely happy to see him. Lisa also smiled.
Come in, we were just about to celebrate John's first award.
Mr. Smith quietly pinched himself. Was he dreaming? When they sat down at the table, they served the most delicious chicken, and he finally asked,
What award is this?
Dad, I got a job at a local factory, by the way, your competitor. So, I proposed an interesting development to them, and when they realized that it would significantly reduce their production costs, they gave me a reward. We want to do some renovation and decided to celebrate a bit.
Renovation?
That's all Mr. Smith could say. He also noticed that Lisa's eyes were shining. And his son was satisfied and happy. When they went out on the balcony for some air, Mr. Smith said,
Son, I have a confession to make to you.
No need, Dad. Lisa told me when I wanted to fulfill my husband's duty. But that was a long time ago, and I'll tell you what, thanks to you, if it wasn't for that punishment, I never would have noticed her and never would have known what beautiful girls there are in the world.
So, you?
Yes, Dad. And if you don't accept her, we'll stay here. Yes, I can. I may not be a millionaire like you, but I'll do a lot for my family.
Lisa, that's enough. Pack up. I don't want my son to help my competitors.
The father took the couple to his house. 2 more years passed. There was a quiet knock at the office.
Yes, come in.
Boss, there's someone here to see you.
Let him come in. I know.
His friend and companion came in. He was pale.
What's the matter?
Bob, I don't know what to do with my son. He's out of his mind. This time they hit some guy and ran away. The guy survived, but he turned out to be a lawyer. And my dumbass was driving.
I don't know. Should you stop paying for him? Let him clean up his own mess for once.
Well, that's good for you to say. Your John got that firm off the ground. I heard he bought something else.
Yeah, he's gonna start a new juice company in town. And you were all laughing at his wedding.
Yeah, I know. I know we were wrong back then. Only there's probably no one like your daughter-in-law alive anymore.
That's right, there aren't any more of that kind. But you should take my advice. Let him try to answer for himself for once. Don't let him go to jail, but pretend you're not interfering.
Thank you, I'll try.
The end. Thank you for watching to the end. If you liked the story, please give it a like.